Here we go.
It makes me laugh every time.
Welcome back to Skyfire Live. I am your host, Matt Sloan, CEO of Skyfire, and we have Ben Kroll, COO of Skyfire. This week, we also have Kevin Sofen from WS Darley joining us. So, Kev, welcome to the Matt and Ben show. Skyfire Live. Thanks for being here. Always a pleasure to see you. Where in the world are you these days?
I am in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, which is in Sheboygan, about 1 hour north of Milwaukee.
Excellent. Look, the weather looks lovely.
Yeah, it's great. We're known for our beer and cheese and obnoxiously nice people.
Oh, well, those are all really great things. So congratulations on that. So Kevin is joining us today because in addition to working at Darley, which is a great partner of ours at Skyfire, you are also the one of the founders of the Smart Firefighting Network. So why don't we start by just telling everybody what exactly is the Smart Firefighting Network and why are we talking about it today?
Thank you. Yeah, Smart Firefighting was born out of actually in response to the NIST and NFPA report that came out in 2015 called the Roadmap to the Future of Smart Firefighting. It was one of those great reports, 300 pages, ribbon cutting, shaking hands, kissing babies. Look at how cool this report is. And it was great. And in there, it talked about the future of smart cities, smart fire departments, how to incorporate drones, wearables, all these cool things. But this report, while it had a lot of good info, it didn't have a lot of action in follow-up. So from that, we wanted to create a community of action around that report. And so it was around 2017 where we launched smartfirefighting.com. And we have a couple different sections where we talk about data and computation, wearables, robotics. And we have a growing community of the different partners, from technology partners, channel partners, institutional partners, and end users. And really probably the main thing that we do is stuff like this is create content. We're constantly looking to just connect the dots between people and do that through content creation. So we've hosted over 100 podcasts. We have a bunch of different webinars that I'll talk more about coming up. And something we've done at some of the shows is we've now done 3 of them where we just bring people together. And I think what I love about this community is when you bring a bunch of smart people in the room from different walks of life, you just get this magic that occurs. And we're really just trying to spur the magic of innovation in the fire industry, and appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk about it and learn more about ways that we can collaborate and get the word out on innovating in the fire industry.
Did we lose Matt?
Matt might be temporarily misplaced on the internet, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think we lost him. Oh, there you are. Matt, are you there?
Matt, please come back.
That's awesome. Well, so let's go back for it. So what was kind of the main?
Yeah, definitely having some issues there.
That's okay.
Yeah, so Kevin, talk a little bit more about one of the things that you mentioned there was smart cities. That's something that we're hearing a lot about. Can you talk about that a little bit? What does that mean to you and to the network?
Yeah, I think there's the whole generic term where we now hear smart noun or smart verb, and it's kind of put in front of everything. And for me, it's really important to talk with the end users, where you hear smart cities and you have a lot of technologists creating all these cool widgets. You talk about whether it's a piece of hardware or a piece of software that's now creating a new data point to hopefully help make a first responder more efficient or allow them to do their job better by having access to new data. So to me, smart city is what are the new different, I guess an example, thinking of a technology is Hoss Alert. You're talking about a vehicle-to-vehicle communication unit, and that's more of on the apparatus, but talking about functionality throughout the city and how can that data be sent to different first responders or streetlights to allow better transport of cars within the city. Another cool technology is the Wi-Fiber. That's another technology of how do we make cities more instantly connected so we can have instantaneous communication and be able to use other softwares like a Blue Force, or to be able to do gunshot tracking, or using new technology to actually create new data to allow first responders to do their job better, to me is a consistent theme, in particular within smart cities. That's a theme I see. And one thing I would say to technologists and people out there is, before you start developing something that seems good in your head, try talking to some end users to really understand if it is actually something of value or something they could work towards. Because I think too often people develop something cool that actually doesn't have a whole lot of value for any practical use today, because it's either too expensive or just frankly not even applicable for today's operations.
Right. Yeah, that's such a great point. Making sure that when you're going to that end user, you're asking them what they really need. Like, what is it you need? Not forcing them into something that you think is cool or right, but really kind of doing that research. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Looks like we got Matt back. Matt, are you there?
I am here. Sorry about that.
There you are.
Made for technical difficulties over here. And
Good to see you again.
thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Really.
We missed you.
Matt, we were just talking about like end user and how important that is, that you go to them and ask them what is it you guys need, and not kind of, we've had this discussion a lot recently, about really going to the user and going, what do you guys need and how can we support those kinds of things.
Because it came up with smart cities, Matt, where I think there's a lot of people who are developing a hardware or software or some widget that sounds really cool on the whiteboard, and all three of us could talk until we're blue in the face about it's cool, but if it doesn't have a specific outcome of efficiency in mind to an end user, then it's maybe something that's going to happen down the road, or it's frankly just it's just white noise that's really kind of potentially wasting time.
Well, there's this phrase that I keep saying and hearing over and over again, which is like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it's one of the things we talk about a lot, like in trying to figure out what Skyfire is going to do next, is like, these are all really great things, but if you can't make actionable data out of that, then what's the point of doing it, right? And so it's like, yeah, that's great that like you can like order a cheeseburger and somebody will fly it to you on a drone right now, but like, is that something you really need in your life? Like, there's, we always joke about like, yeah, that money could be used to like cure cancer or something. So like, let's figure out what really needs to be done here. And the Smart Firefighting Network is a great way to do that, because you're actually listening to the people on the ground and going, what is it that you need to make your job better? And that's why it was so attractive to us to be a part of it. So,
yep.
What are some of the some of the things that you've seen come out of the partnerships so far?
Yeah, I think what I love most is trying to break down barriers of innovation, and part of that, it can be that's a broad statement, but to me, it's sometimes eliminating the communication gap or helping to facilitate pilot programs. And a lot of times you have end users that are very passionate about adopting technology, but are either too afraid because it sounds expensive or just don't know where to start. So we've now successfully helped implement a couple different pilot programs with some wearable technologies, and some that you're aware of with 3AM Innovations, which is location tracking, and FireHUD with the biometric tracking, where those are technologists. They're smart entrepreneurs and have great hustle and grit, but sometimes are missing the mark on the communication with the end user. And smartfirefighting.com has helped connect the dots between end user and technologists to more rapidly do a pilot program quicker, so we can get feedback, we can get case studies, and more quickly develop the product that's actually going to be used in the field. So for me, that's something that it just puts a smile on my face to know that we helped make that happen sooner.
Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry to interrupt. That just got my attention when you were talking about biometric and location tracking. Can you describe that just for a minute? That was fascinating.
Yeah. So location tracking, sort of the holy grail. I mean, I got my smartphone, and you got Google Maps and Waze, and you can kind of know where you are pretty accurately these days with just your smartphone. But a big issue has been the Z-axis and knowing where you are within an actual building. So if you were on the first floor, fifth floor, or 20th floor, that's been something that has been very difficult to do. as well as within how do you do geolocation tracking within environments that don't necessarily have the best Wi-Fi or best data. So actually 3M Innovations is one example of a technology that allows you to actually know where you are, X, Y, and Z coordinates, which is great for not only knowing where the person is, but for, let's say, wildland firefighting applications of knowing someone's at quadrant X and Y and being able to say, hey, go to this other specific quadrant and do some pre-brush fire mitigation work. So it's just a great one and two-way means of communication of knowing exactly where you are and telling someone exactly where to go. May seem sort of simple, but at the same time, it's extremely important for, as you know, first responders to know exactly where you are and understanding that situational awareness. And then biometrics wearables. I mean, this is something that it can live on your hand or live on your chest, but most likely your hand. It's a passive monitor, and you're monitoring your heart rate, you're monitoring your body temperature, and then from that getting an overall exertion rate. And I think that's really addressing preventing heat strokes and heart attacks for firefighters, because I make sure a lot of people know when you're wearing this PPE, I mean, that this gear is an extra 30, 40 pounds, and you're in, if it's over 80, 90 degrees and you're in these environments where it's extremely hot, your heart and body can get way out of tempo than more than you would expect. So having a wearable allows us to monitor some of those spikes in those body temperatures and exertion rates to where we could now more rapidly put someone in a rehab and also better monitor them, because we unfortunately see a lot of heart attacks, a couple hours after a event, and part of that's because just their exertion rates out of control and they didn't do the proper rehab afterwards. And with biometrics, we can now prevent that. And both of these are wearable options that have developed a lot in the past few years, and frankly are now commercially available to the fire service and really starting to become commonplace within the fire industry.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, you mentioned that, the kind of the holy grail. As you know, I don't, my background is certainly not public safety or fire rescue or any of that, but I've heard people talking about that for a long time. We've had people kind of since we started asking us, kind of from day one, like, what if I give my firefighters like some RFID technology? Can you send a drone over and, be able to identify, who's moving? And then, you can add in some of the biometric stuff that can relay that information. So that stuff's really cool. That's, to me, I'm glad you mentioned that. So kind of shifting gears just a little bit, how can firefighters get involved with this? Like, is there a way that they can kind of access some of the stuff that you're talking about with smart firefighting?
We've got a few things in the works, and frankly, we want to develop this to be a community of action for the entrepreneurs, for the fire service, for the Skyfires and the Darleys in the world. And so we're not married to any particular idea, and we open or we welcome suggestions. But a few things that we got in the works is we're working to develop a training library of virtual reality content. So that's something that can allow firefighters to consume content on their smartphones with a cardboard headset, and I can get more into that. We're constantly looking at developing content that's relevant like this. I mentioned that we do podcasts, so we're always interested in highlighting very unique case studies of first responders. So if you are a first responder and know someone, or you're a technologist, and we can communicate a new tech, or we can communicate a best practice, sometimes just sharing the way that you approach adopting a drone program is something that it could be very valuable. So we'd love to interview you on a podcast. And then we're doing these live webinars now too that you've seen, and we've done a few on data in the fire service, on virtual reality in the fire service. But we've got a couple cool ones planned around community risk reduction and in pulling some thought leaders together, health and wellness, and virtual reality. So those are live events that we encourage you to attend, comment, participate. And then I think lastly, we're trying to make it an active website and putting content that's relevant and cool and something that you want to check on a daily, weekly basis. So we're completely redoing the content in the document center and the resource center in the next month. So that will be a new resource for everyone to use. And And frankly, again, it's a community for you. It's a community for everyone, and the goal is to make it something that helps break down barriers of innovation in the fire industry. I think you're on mute there. You're on mute there, Ben.
Every time I stay on mute. Thanks. Yeah, I think that's really cool and really impressive. I think what you're trying to do with this, and certainly I think solving a problem, meeting a need, like we talked about with the end user. You mentioned something else that kind of jumped out at me. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned data and VR, virtual reality type stuff?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? I think that's
Yeah,
neat.
with virtual reality, that's something that I probably have the most knowledge on, because within Darley, I've been helping to lead the product development team for that. And I mean, I just think with virtual reality, I mean, anything that's dangerous or expensive or high risk or has an environmental or health cost, it can be done in virtual reality. And right now, we look at firefighter cancer rates. They are 30 to 40% higher in testicular cancer, in colon cancer, and skin cancer. And you ask yourself, why? And granted, you can look at the nature of the industry and think, okay, well, that's just going to happen. But a lot of this exposure is happening during training. And frankly, there's some technologies off the shelf now with companies like Flame Systems, River, Pixo, Warp VR. There's a couple other great ones that they're doing amazing work, and that allows you to create hazardous situations to where you can actually train in them and get. And there's different types of VR, and I actually have a white paper we just published where there's different types of content. Some could be like computer generated imagery that's like high-end Simpson graphics, and then there's also 360 video, which is like capturing real life and putting into situations. Then there's photorealistic interactive content, which is like taking laser scans and photos of this cup and putting physics behind it. And they all have different values, and we're seeing a lot for fireground training, alternative to hot fire training, situational awareness training, arson investigation, extinguisher training. So it's all developing very fast, and especially in the world of COVID, where we're restricted by the nature of socially distance and not being able to see each other in person. We now have to find ways to train. Fire academies aren't training right now, and fires are still happening. Emergencies are still happening. Training standards need to now more quickly adopt some of the virtual and immersive remote learning. And we're now seeing more quick adoption for first responders and training academies to adopt different virtual reality examples. And I've got some better videos and examples, but it's, again, think if anything's expensive or a risk, it can be trained in VR. And I think one point that I want to make that's clear is that we're not replacing real training. It's meant to complement and enhance training. So as opposed to the first time you get to the live fire, you can have a couple examples of practicing that live fire in a virtual environment, so you're more prepared for the real live training.
That's like super fascinating. Yeah, that's interesting, especially with everything going on with COVID right now. It's scary, I mean, it's scary when you say like, people maybe aren't getting trained, right? Because of, the restrictions and the distancing and all that. So that just is such an opening for some of that technology. Can you talk maybe specifically about one of those very specific technologies that like maybe VR that maybe people have access to now that's successful and working out there?
There's two that Darley is commercializing across the United States right now at a very good rate. One of them is the Flame Systems, and think of this as a alternative to hot fire training, where a lot of times hot fire training, you need 7 instructors, you need all these different containment barriers, and it's just a production to do it. Whereas Flame Trainer right now, it has a face piece, an SCBA, a hose reel, a heat vest, and it includes these different haptics to replicate what it's like to actually train in a hot fire situation. And the instructor has a tablet that they can initiate to put the student through different scenarios. So like a car fire, a pallet fire, a warehouse fire, a national parks house fire. And you can now be in those situations. And one thing the Chief Technology Officer James Mullins always tells me is the last thing you do in training is put out the fire. And I kind of surprised me at first, but it's true, because young firefighters are so eager to like, let's go out and fight this fire. It's going to be great. But you have to think about what are the 100 things I need to do mentally in my checklist to understand where are the smoke patterns, what are the smoke patterns, what's the wind patterns, are the trucks and everyone's correctly positioned? Do we have enough resources to fight this? I mean, the questions go on, and that's what Flame Trainer allows you to do. And we're now successfully seeing integration to training academies, community colleges, actually virtual reality arcades, and making it something accessible to small fire departments. The other one, Flame Trainer, Flame Systems also has a flame extinguisher, and this is now allowing you to, with regular extinguisher training, it's kind of a mess. You're doing something on fire, and now this is something that can be trained indoors. It gets a small portable Pelican case. You can bring it around, and the idea is that training can go to you, and it's not a mess. It's easy to replicate. It can be put on the screen, so people can be watching what the person's doing. And I think that's something that's super advantageous with those two technologies. And then River was another company I mentioned. They have a really cool arson investigation training. Think about with arson, you have to burn down the building, and then you have 30 people come in to study it, but you can't actually touch anything because it's going to mess it up for the next student. But they now have a subscription library of photorealistic training content, which this content blows you away. You're like, you put it on, you're like, this is real. It feels like some Matrix stuff where like you're just living in this like alternate dimension. And it's really impressive because you can train hundreds of times without having to burn down the building. And there's a lot of advantage to that. And funny enough, a lot of the best companies that I'm seeing in VR are all international. I say international, I mean non-United States. And not that there's not a lot of innovation coming from America, but a lot of impressive innovation coming from the UK, Australia, the Netherlands. And it's fun to, within Smart Firefighting too, bring together these internationals that are really doing some amazing work to push virtual reality faster and further within the first responder industry. And one last point I think on that is like, we see so much innovation happening in the police sector and the defense sector, and it's because there's, as you know, so much money. But it's exciting to see now it's tilting a little bit more towards technology, and investments is coming into making this attainable and accessible for first responders across the United States now in the first responder industry.
Huh. Yeah, that is really cool stuff. You mentioned something that we talk a lot about, which is the high rate of cancer, right, that we see among firefighters. So, and I think you made a good point there that you're not trying to replace any real live fire training that they're doing. You're just trying to augment it, right, and trying to make it safer, and maybe not expose folks as much to that. So I
think that's a big thing you guys experience within drones too, where I think we want to talk about within drones and virtual reality that we're not asking you to change everything you're doing. We're not eliminating jobs. We're just trying to complement and enhance operations to make it safer for first responders and reduce carcinogen exposure and make everything you're doing just more efficient. And I think, as we know, sometimes first responders and fire industry is, you get that cross-armed, hard no, totally. We ain't changing because that's the way it's always been. That stupid phrase. It's the 100 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. I think that's like the Voldemort phrase. Like, God, it hurts my ears, but it's true. And I think we want to continue to see how we can break down those barriers.
Cool. Okay. So then that kind of leads then into what's your vision for kind of smart firefighting moving forward, and what would you like this to become, and how do you see it kind of evolving down the road?
Yeah, I think we acknowledge, and my other co-founder Mike, who's been on the show, and we talk about this all the time, and we're just a piece of the puzzle. We're a communications arm, we're a connector, we're somewhat of a system integrator, and our goal is we want firefighters, different first responders coming to the site to learn valuable content, to be aware of what's happening, and we want to be a convener. So I challenge and encourage all of you, if you have a cool story, if you have a cool technology, if you have a cool a great best practice that we can share, we want to host a podcast. We're doing one a week, and then these virtual live events. How can we continue to have really powerful thought leaders? So if you have a topic around data around VR, around wearables, around smart cities, around whatever, we want to be the ones convening and pulling that together. And I think with all this of having a functional website that brings people together, having valuable content that people enjoy to consume, it's our goal to facilitate pilot programs on a consistent basis. It's our goal to connect technologists with venture capitalist funding. That's why I think big thing, they're somewhat rarely known, but we work closely, with a couple different VC investors, Swiss Track Investment, Tech Nexus, Responder Ventures, Public Safety Network. Those are four of the very significant players in this space, and we are happy to help facilitate introductions for those entrepreneurs so they can more quickly get advice from VCs and potentially funding, and just connect the dots. I mean, as I said, we are a piece of the puzzle. We love communicating and we love convening people. And if we can tell your story and we can help make it aware to other people, then that's a win for us. And then I think lastly too, we're not married to any particular idea or topic. We have an idea of where we want to go, but we encourage feedback from the market and audience as a whole, and really anything you have too that can help Skyfire or other people that you're end users that you're connected with.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, ultimately, I think it's certainly a benefit to our customers and clients and end users. So something that we've been excited to be a part of and kind of watch build and grow. Like you said, I think we were supposed to have Mike here today. The big question is that we keep getting is, does Mike still have his mustache?
Drum roll. No, I know. So unfortunate. I'm like, dude, you're so much cooler with a mustache. No, I'm kidding. Mike's still cool without the mustache, but I think, yeah, quarantine and COVID, I think is like really, caused us to do some different things, whether it's try new facial hair or I'm trying this new stupid haircut. My brother's all about this high and tight. And I just like, honestly, I've been looking at myself and I'm like, God, I look like such a shock sometimes with this hairdo, but disregarding physical attributes, I think COVID has allowed us to try new things from virtual learning and remote gatherings that who knows when we're getting back together in person. But I think to me, it's that whole nature of never let a crisis go to waste. So I've enjoyed seeing how we're adapting, and I guess I'll put that back on you, Ben. Interested, like, what's been your biggest takeaway? What have you learned most from COVID, kind of from how we've adapted and how hopefully that will create a better future for first responders or drone operations or whatever?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been thinking, for a while now, like we're going to have to learn to live with this for some time, right? I mean, we're just going to have to adapt. And it's fascinating, I think, some of the ways like the world's changing, personally on our side, like we've changed how we do training. We used to do, if we take like our standard 2-day course, right? That now the first day, instead of being in person, we do that all online, and that's to kind of help limit our exposure. It's to help kind of some of the public safety folks that we work with be a little more flexible in their scheduling. And it's so interesting. I like you see on like social media now, where I saw a post the other day from a firefighter. It's a friend of mine, and he posted it, and he was on duty, he was on shift, and he's just sitting outside the front of his house drinking some coffee, and in the background is the fire truck, right? And so they're just taking the fire trucks home, and so everything little from that to all like the technological stuff that's going to happen to, there's a company that got authority to do fly beyond visual line of sight, I think on the East Coast somewhere, and do, I think that was zip line, and they got that authority from the FAA, the beyond visual line of sight authority. So I think in some ways it's helping, kind of move some regulations forward, which helps move some of the technology forward. So I think we're at the very, very beginning of that, right? I mean, that's like what this is going to look like a year from now. I don't know. So I'm glad we have stuff like, Smart Firefighting and you guys kind of taking the lead on this and thinking through how does this change? How is this going to change, moving forward?
I think it's important. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I can't wait till we can go back to normal. And yeah, I'm excited for certain things to somewhat go back, but like it'll never be the same. And I think we need to continue to look at what are the different changes that are positive in this new normal in the post-COVID world that allow us to train better, to allow us to bring people together more effectively. How do you leverage Zoom trainings and webinars and Darley's participating in a virtual trade show in Canada. I mean, it's all just sort of a new normal. I sometimes fear that like we're becoming the Matrix and everything is just like, eventually I'm gonna have like a freaking chip in my head and I wouldn't even need to think. But yeah, I guess I said it earlier, but let's not let this crisis go to waste. And I hope to continue to see positive change, and hopefully, this will help Matt's Wi-Fi be consistent even
That's
after.
right. That's right. Yeah, we get.
Crisis.
No, that's interesting. So you said you guys are attending a virtual, like conference. Is that what you said?
It's the virtual firefighting engineering virtual conference in Canada for the Canadian Fire Chiefs on Friday.
Okay, see, yeah, that's an interesting one. Like I get like a conference where you're like going and like watching some speakers. We can easily move that online. But things like FDIC and FRI and all these the IACP, all these shows that are trying to do like a virtual component. How do you do like a virtual component, have people come look at products and talk to vendors and those kinds of things online? So that'll be interesting, I think.
There's an amazing man that that you guys should interview. His name's Stefan Truthon, and I met him through Kirk McKenzie. He's now built this 3D environment online that allows companies to send in their 3D scanned images to put in this sort of first responder world that you can then record people being there. So you can sort of go and see a product and then have someone talk to you, and you can enjoy this show, and you can do it on both a 2D screen or walk around with a 3D headset and teleport. So that's one really cool example of this interactive 3D 2D screen or 360 type virtual experience. And then for this Canadian show I'm doing, I think it's hard. I think, as we know, we've all been zoomed out. Like, God, like even today I'm in like back to back calls, and I'm like, guys, like want to go like eat a quick bite, and it's exhausting. But like, yeah, how do you make events, especially virtually, enticing? And as great as I know we are right now on the screen, it's important to show visuals. It's important to show videos, do cool stuff. So I think we just have to do untraditional things to keep people's attention. And I'm hopeful that, I don't really know what to expect Friday. I'm just speaking for 30 minutes about virtual reality, but I don't know. I'll take some notes and screenshots and let you know how it goes.
That's awesome. It looks like we do have Matt back. Matt, you missed us discussing such hard-hitting topics as Mike Masserino's mustache.
Oh no, I didn't miss it at all. I was watching it on my phone. I just couldn't chime in.
We didn't actually talk.
Yeah, no. It was kind of fun to watch it from a viewer standpoint too. So you guys were killing it. It was great. I love it.
Thank you.
Cool. Matt, you got anything?
No. I'll just add my vote to bring back the Masserino stash. I think it's. Maybe I'll reach out to Mrs. Masserino and put in word.
I got a bone to pick with you. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. No, it was more you saying that's it.
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, kind of take us out here. What any kind of final thoughts on anything you want to share, or we'll put up links to the site and all of that stuff and how to get a hold of you and all that on the page here in a minute. But just kind of some final thoughts here and thought.
Around the topic of innovation, I think a lot of times people think like, oh, like, man, I could never do that. Like, you see someone who developed Facebook or developed like a widget, like I don't know, like a Segway, or even though that guy died driving it, it's a bad example. But like, you don't need to look at innovation as like developing a new product or a new software. Like there's ways where you can repackage existing stuff in a new way to make it accessible to a new market. So there's, and the way you should do that is surround yourself with other people that are like-minded, but also different, and just put some words on paper, throw stuff against a whiteboard. And that's something at the Smart Firefighting community. We're always happy to talk through ideas and spitball how we could take an idea and connect it to another partner to help facilitate faster development. And so definitely don't pursue innovation as a linear thing. Innovation it's literally it's a meandering river. And there's a lot of eager partners out there that want to help. I think obviously people worry about like, oh, NDAs and that's mine. But I think if there's a lot of good people who want to help, and don't be afraid to try something new and throw something against a wall, and you could mess up 100 times, but that 101st time, there's a gold nugget there, and we at the Smart Firefighting community want to help facilitate with communication, with awareness, with pilot programs, with events, and there's some other great partners out there that as well that can enhance, like Skyfire, like I mentioned, Safe Tech. I mean, there's someone that's really out there with their road shows. So if you got cool tech, that's a cool example to exponentially get your technology in front of more people to get more rapid feedback. And I mentioned this earlier, but it's always good to get more rapid feedback. I know people strive for perfection, but don't strive for perfection. Like I've been wanting to drop some F-bombs here, and I will figuratively do that. It's like perfection is the enemy. Just put stuff out there, get feedback, and continuously try and iterate so you can actually bring value to those end users.
That's awesome. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, one of the things that you brought up, Kevin, I just thought of like kind of an interesting example is Esri. I mean, for those of you who don't know what Esri is, it's essentially like a mapping data backend. But what being part of the Esri network allows you to do is take existing data and cobble it together in interesting ways. So you're not necessarily creating something new, you're just aggregating things in a different way. Esri also, a good friend of all of ours and working in that network, and many of those partners are using that backend to kind of put these map layers together so you can actually visualize this stuff differently. So
Esri is a great example, and they have their startup community. So, I mean, if you have an idea, and they're a lot of times giving out free 12-month licenses. So that's a great example. You can repurpose data and find a new way to make it of value. And Esri is an off-the-shelf tool that is widely used, and they're always looking for new ways to innovate on top of their data and their platform.
Well, I have one other question too. There's something hanging off your wrist. I was curious what it was.
What up? Yeah, this is my full-time side hustle that makes me no money, but has contributed a lot to humanity. I buy and sell these wristbands from female artisans around the world and reinvest the profits into grassroots water projects. So as I wear my fire innovation hat a lot, but I also have a water innovation hat that I wear. And with this, we focus on a similar innovation process where we really try and understand the grassroots problems in communities and then reverse engineer a solution that brings long-term sustainable empowerment. So my biggest focus right now is in Flint, Michigan, and we're implementing point of entry sustainable water systems at houses, churches, and community centers to allow families to have safe water, not just for drinking, but for cooking and hygiene. So yeah, wristbands $10, and kind of like community with smart firefighting, but responsible. It's like building a responsible community of action and doing little things to pay it forward, like using less one-time plastics, trying to consume less red meat, little things that are good for the environment while empowering artisan supply chains and helping with grassroots water projects. That is responsible.
No, that's awesome. Well, you knew I couldn't let you go without talking about it. So.
I always appreciate the plug, but
yeah, no, of course, no, it's awesome, and I think I've met very few people with your passion for truly helping people in all facets of life. So I think it is admirable, and we are thrilled to be partners with you guys and friends with you personally, and we wish you the best of luck on these projects. And as Ben said, we'll kind of put these links down there so people can get the responsible bands and join the Smart Firefighting Network, and hopefully we'll be doing events together soon. But in the meantime, Zoom it is.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm hopeful that there'll be another event in Atlanta. We can go back to that kitchen. That was an awesome Smart Firefighting event.
Yeah, that was a really good time. Yeah, we at the cooking school.
Was that the one at Jake's?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. That was so much fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. Ben, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I just want to say, echo what Matt was saying, Kevin. Appreciate you and everything you do, and and your passion and desire just to help. It comes through, and it's awesome. And we certainly wouldn't be where we are without you guys today. So thank you.
Thank you. I have one more thing. It was more of a question for you, Matt. I asked it to Ben, but just a quick, what's been your biggest takeaway and hopeful lesson learned from the coronavirus impact on our lives?
Well, it's funny because I think we have had a lot of conversation over the years about, we did business a certain way. We were selling drones and selling FAA consulting and training and all that kind of stuff. And then it just kind of kept going the way it was going. And, we just thought it was going to keep going that way. And then obviously like this massive bomb has dropped and, we can't do training, as Ben said, in person, and equipment sales, and some people, they want more equipment because they've got money for coronavirus. Some people, they have no budget all of a sudden, but it's really forced us to innovate and be flexible. One of the things that, we've always sort of prided ourselves on is being small and nimble. And, we didn't get in any one particular basket and just get entrenched. And so, I'm proud of the fact that, me and Ben and the team have really been able to kind of roll with it and just, figure out ways to kind of keep it going. And, in some ways it's, I think, like exhausting to be constantly changing things and constantly adapting. And we'd like to just be comfortable for a few minutes, but, it's actually the most exciting part, I think. Yeah, no, I mean, that's, it's the most exciting part about running a business too, is responding to the market. And, I've gotten a lot of time with my family, which has been super cool. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually in Florida at the beach for the entire summer because why not? We're all working virtually. So aside from a minor few Wi-Fi issues every now and then, I've got the, the Florida jungle out there behind me. So it's been obviously, it's like everybody else. I don't know how to feel about it. One day it's like tragic and I can't, sort of digest the enormity of it all. And I feel horrible for the people who have gotten it and died from it. In other ways, I think it's forced us to get rid of some things that we didn't need to be doing anyway and find some other things that we did and help people in different ways. So, I don't know. I'm all over the place with it like everybody else, I think.
Yeah. No, likewise. Well, I admire the journey that you guys been on with your business, and you guys do great work, and drones are something that are an integral part of how first responders continue to do their business and operate. And I love the way you guys operate. It's a pleasure and honor to be connected, and we need to be doing more of this. And really, again, thank you for the opportunity to share the smartfirefighting.com story and the responsible swag, and just hope to continue to keep it on here, and hope everyone stays safe and keeps their head up high.
Awesome. Well said. Well, we'll close it up on that note. If you guys have any questions for us or want to get in touch with Kevin, just shoot us an email, Facebook, Twitter. Go ahead, Ben, say it.
Not TikTok.
Not TikTok. We're still not on TikTok.
Yet.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Maybe Kevin, you could be responsible.
Kevin, are you on TikTok?
Of course I'm on TikTok.
I
Awesome.
just
I'm gonna
actually
have to go look.
Since we're talking about it, I just have to give a shout out. I'm sure he won't see it, but the former chief marketing officer of CNN, where I used to work, a guy named Scott Sofen, one of the smartest guys I've ever met and worked with, and also incredibly nice human being. His daughter is on TikTok and has been doing all these like dance videos or whatever. And Scott has like a champ gotten in there and done all of the dances with his daughter and is like making fun of himself at every turn. The Father's Day one is epic. So, hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. At least you can poke fun at yourself. So.
Yeah, it's good. It's very light and goofy.
It is.
I think that's something we all can use sometimes.
Yeah, and it's not like we have some principled stand about it. We're just Matt and I are too old to figure out.
We're dinosaurs.
How to do it.
We're dinosaurs.
That old.
One day we'll figure it out, and it'll be super awkward and amazing. So,
and then everyone will have moved on to the next
to something else, right? Yeah, exactly. Maybe Brenna can help us with it. She's our newest employee, our content producer, and just graduated college last week, so she can help us figure it out.
There you go.
Program the VCR, as it were. Well, on that goofy note, I will play us out with our awesome theme music. There it goes. You guys can dance us out there. All right. I'll see you crazy kids later.
See you guys.
See ya.